This episode is brought to you by Dee Accounting. Okay, so you were saying, I said the question of people asking you, where are you, quote unquote, really from? Mm-hmm. And you said you have people that have asked you, like, oh, where are you from? So even here in Memphis, we're here in Memphis. MARCY is from Memphis. Mm-hmm. So how does that go sometimes when people ask you that?
Well, it's funny because I get that a lot from other citizens who were raised and born here as well. I guess because I quote unquote talk proper. I hate what people say proper. Like I hate it because it's like, you know, just a connotation behind it. Mm-hmm. But in the Bible, it's like, you know, we talk a various different type of ways anyways. So it's just like, yeah, I'm from here, man. Like, look here, man.
You said you drag your words out?
Yeah, yes, I do. Sometimes it feels like I'm eating my words.
That's an interesting way to say it. Sometimes it feels like you're eating your words. Yeah. And you said that people don't do it right?
Yeah. Like, sometimes they don't use man right.
How do you use it?
Like, it could be anything. Man, look that man right there. We can talk about that shelf. That's just how, we can talk about a shelf. That's just how we talk.
So do you feel like that is culture?
Yeah, that's our culture down here.
Your culture?
Yes.
And do you feel like people are trying to pick it up or put it on or?
Yeah.
Because how do you feel like people say it wrong? Like people from somewhere else come here, try to pick it up, or
you can definitely tell when people if they try too hard trying to use it, like just with our vernacular, you know, fleek, lit. You can like, you're not from here, you know, like where are you from? So it's just, you know, just weird. Like it just clock them real quick. Like, yeah, you're not from here. Like you just tell. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting in terms of especially like slang and like accents and stuff like that, because I do think a lot of slang is like super regional. I was just talking to somebody the other day and they said something to me and I said clutch.
Yeah.
And they were like, is that like a real word or is that like it was something like that. Like, is that like a real word or a real term? I was like, yeah, it means like you came through, like, and then they were like, oh, I just like looked it up and that's from like 2003. I've never heard that. That's so old. And I was like, well, I know for a fact that people on the East Coast still say clutch. Yeah, and I was like, even if it's like old, people still use it. And I also was having a conversation with somebody else and they were like, that most slang or whatever, they were like, it's not, what did they say? They were like, oh, it doesn't belong to Black people and it doesn't belong to Black Americans because they were like, it's just words that people use on the internet. It's like internet slang. And I was like, but how do you think
it got to the internet?
Right. How do you think it got to the internet? Like, how do you think something like on fleek got to the internet? How do you think like lit got to the internet? It didn't just magically fucking come out of nowhere, just like randomly become, you know, internet slang. And I think that's like a really interesting thing in terms of maybe that's like I don't know if I would call, maybe, I guess, yeah, like in terms of the cultural appropriation, maybe aspect of it, of just like, no, it doesn't belong to you. It's not a real thing. It's just internet slang. It's just youth slang. And I remember there's been a lot of controversy because Time Magazine, every year they do a worst words poll list.
I don't know her. Like,
right. I know because it was like a big thing a few years ago. This is how I even found out that they did this every year because people were like, well, the majority of the words on this list of words that are like need to be banned. They do it at the end of the years for the upcoming year. Okay. People were like, the majority of the words on this list is like Black American slang words.
Right.
And the editors of the publication sort of pushed back and they were like, sort of that same ideology. They were like, no, it's not. It's youth slang. It's internet slang. I remember like Bay was on there and people were like, especially a lot of people from the South were like, no, we've been saying like bae and babe and baby and stuff like that for years.
And I've, the youngest, like as young as I can remember, I've always heard name, you know.
And yet now
it's just like, that's just part of our vocabulary. I mean, it's how we talk.
When you go other places, what do people like say to you about the way that you talk? Because you said sometimes people say you talk proper.
Yeah. Well, within the city, I can get that a lot. Like I talk proper.
What's proper about it?
I don't like, that's what I want to know.
You're like, that is the question.
I just like, I want to make sure that like I'm saying the words clearly, because sometimes I can't eat my words. So I want to make sure that I am, you know, I'm communicating with you effectively. But, you know, it's just the whole proper, it comes with so much within our community, because it's like, oh, you know, they may think, you know, they're better, and they may have went to a white school or whatnot. And it's like, you know, I just want to make sure you hear what I'm saying most of the time. But I think I talk pretty country and southern. You know, I get that a lot from like people who visit from like the West Coast or from up north. Like, oh yeah, I can hear it. They want to hear you talk. Like, say my name. Like, get away from me. Like, I get it all the time. But I mean, it's just something. It's a conversation that you know, has been going on since probably I was 8 years old, that I can remember, about, you know, what proper is like amongst us.
I think it's interesting that well, a few things I was thinking. I think it's interesting that the perception changes sort of like based on who you're talking to.
Right.
So like when you're talking to somebody that's like from the West Coast, you said, or like from the North, they tell you talk country or Southern. But when you're talking to somebody maybe from here, they tell you talk proper. So and I get that too. Like people will tell me that I talk proper. This happens all the time to me on YouTube. People will leave comments that be like, oh, that I talk like a Valley girl, or I talk like a white girl, or I have a accent. And a lot of times, I mean, and I know I have an accent, but my accent's kind of peculiar because I've lived like a lot of places and I like picked up a lot of stuff. And it's interesting though, because I feel like people, they form a perception of me based off how I talk in videos, like what they hear me saying and how I'm saying it, how I'm speaking. And it's fucking weird sometimes, because people be like, they have like a whole a whole fan fiction. Like that's just like, yeah. And I bet you went to a white school, and I bet you all your friends are white, and I bet this and I bet that, and you just sitting on the internet talking. Idea. And I just be like,
have not seen any of your past videos.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
It's just all based on the way that I'm speaking, my speech patterns and stuff. They create an idea of me. And I mean, this happens even in real life too sometimes, that people do this. And I've even asked people like, and I don't know, maybe I'm also just like a contradictory person in general, because I've had people meet me and be like, oh, you know, I have like piercings and I have like tattoos and all this stuff. And they assume that I'm like I've had people walk up to me like strangers at parties and be like, oh, I bet you like a troublemaker. I bet you like ran away from home and like all this other stuff. And I'd be like, well, what makes you say that? And they'd be like, oh, your appearance. And then I've had people that once they hear me start talking and expressing myself, and they say, oh, and something about like the natural hair also makes people think that
it's so weird.
Everybody you run with is white. And I just be like, why would the natural hair mean that everybody?
I don't get that.
I get that all the time. And you just be like, oh, but number one, it'd be like contradictory statements all the time. And then number two, it's just like, what made you think that? Like, how did that even come across? It's like a really interesting thing in terms of like language and like speech and speech patterns. And I also find it funny because like I use a lot of profanity and I also use a lot of slang. But it's almost like the way that I speak, or the way that I enunciate my words, or my accent, or I don't know. It's almost like I bet you if I had like a more Southern accent, for example, and I use like the vulgarity that I use, and I use the slang words that I use, people would probably have a totally different idea just because I have like a Southern accent as opposed to like
they might
other type of accent. So I don't know. Do you think that is something that can be, or how do you think, if you even do think that that's something that could be like changed? Or because you said especially within our community, a lot of the time speech patterns gives people an idea about who we are, who we are as people.
I think so. If people actually want to have their conversation and, speak about it, because third grade, I transferred to a different school. It was very diverse, but it was still majority Black. So I don't know. It just seemed like, depending on what school you go to as well, down here, people may come up with some type of ideal of who they think you are. But even with that, this is a predominantly Black city. So it's going to be Black people somewhere, unless you're like on the outskirts, like on the outskirts of the town. But if they actually want to have their conversation about what it is to talk Black, I really think that's what it really is, because we talk all types of ways,
Did you ever get like teased or picked on or anything like that? I'm asking.
Oh yeah. Because when I did go to the newer school, it would have more funding, so just exposed to more learning different things, just more access than what I would have had if I would have stayed in my previous elementary school. So yeah, you can it wasn't like make me want to go home and cry about it. Definitely wasn't that. But just, just about you talking white, you think you better, but I'm like, okay. I'm like, nah, obviously I'm not
Clearly
white.
I'm not white.
It's not that, but
I wanted to touch on that because, well, number one, I see your Harry Potter shirt.
Thank you.
I saw the Harry Potter shirt.
I am actually House Gryffindor.
I'm House Slytherin. But that's fine. We can get along. You got your green sweater on, so it's all good. I love that shirt. So I wanted to touch on that because I see a lot of people that are sort of talking about that and having that kind of conversation of from this place of, well, I was teased, I was picked on, I was teased for the way that I talked, or I was told that I dressed white, or I was told that I was into Harry Potter, I was a nerd, or I was this, or I was that. And it seems like some people use that as a fuel to decide they don't fuck with other Black people. Because it's sort of like, oh, Black people fucking tease me. They picked on me. They did this, that, and the third to me.
That sucks.
It does suck. And I've made videos previously about that regarding to, like, say, Donald Glover, for example, who's, like, talked about that in, like, stand-ups and stuff, like, well, I had to hang out with the Asians because I was into the Asian shit.
I'm sorry.
I totally go.
Suburb of Atlanta. Atlanta is so chocolate. Even on the outskirts, Douglasville. What was he from?
Stone Mountain. Stone Mountain.
Black as hell.
Yeah.
You chose to. We had our subgroups in schools, but I don't know. I guess when it came to Harry Potter, the biggest thing my mom, down here, it was like, oh, it's the devil. So a lot of my classmates, they couldn't, their parents wouldn't let them watch or read the book. Mom was like, baby, it's pretend. She was like, enjoy.
It's fiction.
Yeah, so she definitely supported me on that aspect. She just didn't want me to be so one-dimensional. She was like, yeah, you feel like you're Harry Potter. I'm still is, but I was a big CD collector of R&B and hip hop. My mom would buy me just about any CD I wanted, even with with the cuss word. She was like, well, you know, you're going to hear it one day. So we can talk about it. Like, we will play the CD and we'll talk about
Go
it.
Mom.
Like, Missy Elliott, what is that one CD? It's with the song Puts It On Family Now. And my mom, she didn't listen to the CD when she bought it for me. It was a Christmas gift. So we was listening to it on the way to a middle school party. She was like, okay. And she was like, well, do you understand what she's saying? And she was like, okay, explain it to me. Like, she was like, oh, I don't want you to listen to that. She was like, she didn't want to sugarcoat. My mom's very blunt. So she definitely didn't want the world to be sugarcoated to me. But it's like, it's weird. Like, you choose who you want to hang out with. Like, it's one thing to hang out with people who you might have same interest with, but ultimately you still choose who you want to hang out with. So that was a choice for him. There was. Like, I had, you know, a non-Black friends, but, you know, my very first friends were my siblings. So I was like, if you can't have no friends if you can't get along with your brothers and sisters and my cousins. So I don't know.
How many brothers and sisters do you have? I'm just curious.
Oh no, it's a total of 4 that my mom birthed.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Like I have a pretty good, unique relationship with each one. I love them. Like, they are my very first friends. They really are.
That's nice. I'm my mother's only child, so I spend a lot of time alone, a lot of time with my thoughts, a lot of time with books and TV and movies and magazines and media and music. But my mom was similar in the sense of like not like letting me be myself,
right? Yeah,
and like not trying to put me in a box, and allowing me to like the things that I like. Like, I also liked Harry Potter. Like, I was super into like magic and witches. And now, see, I don't know if it probably is a regional difference, because like I'm from Washington D.C., which they pretend is the South, but it's not.
How come you didn't bring the Memphis house?
I haven't been there in a while, but next time I'm back in Memphis, I'll bring you some.
I saw a video about it, but
I'll bring you some.
Someone I was like, they don't really get it.
They don't really get it.
Nah,
there's been a lot of talk. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it recently, and a lot of talk about go-go, and a lot of talk about stuff that from people that are not really from DC.
Right.
That were not, maybe they live in DC now, but they were not born and raised in DC. They don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. But next time I come to Memphis, I'll bring you some.
I want to try. It's supposed to be like, nah.
It tastes sort of, it's hard to explain. It's sort of like sweet and sour. See, it's really not, but you really just have to taste. You really just have to taste it, yeah. But I used to love. I mean, I stopped eating chicken. I stopped eating poultry. I'm a pescatarian, obviously, but I used to get my 4 wings cut up, French fries, salt, pepper, ketchup, mumbo sauce all the time. And but I was going to say, in DC, I didn't know a lot of people that were like super religious. Which sounds weird to say, because my grandmother's a minister, but my grandmother, it was like a whole thing, because my grandmother's a Christian, and my aunt is a Christian. But so this is on my father's side, but my whole rest of my father's side of the family is Jehovah's Witness. So basically all my family is Jehovah's Witness, except for my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt. And then, so my father was raised Christian, and then I was raised Christian. But my grandmother and my aunt were not super like they were like religious, but not like you can't, like my grandma used to buy me my Harry Potter books, not like you can't read the books because like it's the devil, it's like demonic, and I never even really heard that thing. Heard that
for the day, like in my fifth grade class. I think when the first movie came out, 2001, maybe 2000. But it was like split down the middle in my class. It was crazy.
Well, I was going to say, what about witchcraft is demonic? But I guess it's like that you get your powers from Satan or something. I really don't know.
I guess so. I don't know. I think because it's not of God, right? This I guess is how I feel.
But what is of God? How is it not of God? If it's witchcraft, if it's magic.
I don't know.
If God made everything, didn't God make magic?
It's some things in the Bible. I'm like, that's witchcraft.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Right. Isn't that shit in the Bible magic?
Yeah.
Like, isn't turning water into wine quite magical?
That is very magical.
Okay.
I wish I could do that.
I wish I could do that too. I definitely feel like that's probably like a regional thing. Mm-hmm. Is Memphis considered the Bible Belt? Is this? I don't know.
Last time I checked, we were.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know much about the Bible Belt, like, as a thing, as a concept.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to see when you travel through Alabama and Mississippi.
It's just like...
See the signs. And
Bible, God, Jesus.
Stores, yeah. You, like, advertise on the highway.
Why do you think... I talked a little bit about religion with somebody else, Jocelyn. Shout out to Jocelyn. Why do you think that, like, Black people have, like, latched on, just you personally, so hard to, like, the Bible and, like, Jesus? I'm not going to say. I want to hear what your thoughts.
I guess that was just the kind of only hope that we had. Mm-hmm. And it was just being passed down. Because I was raised Christian, like, Baptist. Mm-hmm. So that's it. That's kind of the only thing I can think of, you know. Mm-hmm. Maybe, like, feeling that is a form of hope. Mm-hmm. For them.
So, like, it's interesting. I do think it's interesting that the region where it's like mm-hmm. got such a grip is the South and like the deep South.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a coincidence. It's probably not.
I don't think so. Particularly due to slavery, of course. Mm-hmm. But I just think that's something that's just been ingrained in us since then, and mm-hmm. it's just been passed down from generation to generation, mm-hmm. and up until now.
Do you think that's healthy?
A part of me is like, not really, mm-hmm. you know. I just tell people, just read, try to do your research. Mm-hmm. Try not to put your religion onto others. I think that's my biggest issue, mm-hmm. that people form, laws, legislation based on their personal religious beliefs. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest issue. Like, yeah, separate it, but don't put it on other people. Like, let them come into it. Like, my mom, she didn't make us get baptized. She was like, do you know why you get baptized? Mm-hmm. Well, don't get baptized. Like, mom's like, don't do it for me. And I think I was like 10 or 11 mm-hmm. then. But she was like, that's your choice if you want to get baptized. So she wasn't like real, like, you got to read a chapter or book out the Bible every night. Nah, mm-hmm. She wasn't like that.
Your mom sounds super cool.
She's my mother has lived a life, I will say that, and she definitely didn't want us to repeat any of her actions or mistakes that she's made, and I appreciate her. I appreciate her for that. Mm-hmm. I really do.
Yeah. I've seen sometimes, like, when I live stream. It's funny because, like, when I first started live streaming, and I think we might have, like, gotten to a talk about Harry Potter or something like that, and it was people that was in the live stream that was saying, like, my dad or, like, my mom or this person, that person didn't let me read it because it was, like, witchcraft and, like, devil worship and stuff. I feel like that was, like, the first time that I really, like, saw people say that.
Right.
And I was surprised. I was like, but why not? I was confused. I was like, but why not?
Some people still, they don't celebrate Halloween. Like, mom's like, it's a kid's holiday.
Yeah.
Go dress up as French fries and go trick or treat. Like, well, like, we would do some of the cutest family costumes. Yeah.
Yeah, I see people all the time on Instagram with these posts that's like, oh, if you like this, if you weren't allowed to celebrate Halloween, if your parents made you go to church instead to, like, keep the devil. Right, yes!
My mom never made me go to Halloween.
I never heard of it before social media.
I want to go. Like, yeah, like, my brother, it was so funny. My brother had this Scream costume. He was like 12 years old with the blood running through the mask. She was like, well, baby, let's find something else to wear. So she didn't, like, really push it on us. I never force it down our throat. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never heard of it before, like, social media. I just remember being like, what?
Yeah.
But even that, I like reading about and seeing different aspects of culture and different, because I never heard of it. Like, I'm a Black American, and this was something I never heard of.
Like, our, like, culture is so regional. Mm-hmm. And even if I was to see Black, go visit New York or Cali, and I come across some Black folks, it's like we still on the same page in a way, but we just, some stuff is just real regional. Yeah,
very regional and different.
Yes,
it's been interesting sort of taking this trip and seeing sort of different pockets in different areas and different types of Black people that talk in different type of ways, which is probably why I even wanted to do the trip, that talk in different type of ways and have different types of, again, like cultural norms and are into different types of things and sort of like circling back to the people being different and like the teasing and stuff. For me, that makes it even more just sort of like, what? When I see people say like, well, I was teased and like, we use Donald Glover as an example, but I've talked about this previously. This is also something that I've seen with a lot of like, Black immigrants that say like, well, I was teased and that made me feel some type of way about like Black Americans, or I feel some type of way about like people in New York or, whatever. And it's just interesting to me because I do think like, we're so different. Like, we're so different everywhere. Yeah. We have such just really like a rich and multifaceted culture that it's interesting to me to see, especially when it comes to like grown adults. Yeah. That are just like, well, fuck this and like fuck that because this happened to me, that happened to me. I just feel like, but like, how can you feel that way when we're all so different and we have such like a varied amounts of culture? And I understand having like hurt feelings or even having trauma that like maybe needs to be unpacked with a therapist, but saying again, like Donald Glover, like, well, fuck Black people, I'm gonna like run with the Asians, and then going out of your way in Stone Mountain, Georgia to run with Asians because you were teased for being a nerd or something like that. It seems so extreme to me. It seems like such an extreme reaction to me, especially considering that we do have such like this like multifaceted culture that everything is different everywhere. And I even wanted to touch a little bit on like the teasing, and because a lot of people have even said that they feel like that is even a part of like Black American like, culture. Like,
we about to get on your head, man. Like roast section.
Yes.
In school.
Yes.
So like even before I even went to school, between my cousins, we check each other. It's just
checking. I've never heard checking.
Roasting, like we about to make fun of you. Yeah,
roasting us. I've heard roasting.
So it's like that. But we about to fire your ass up. Like especially in high school. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oof, I would get some good comebacks like after the fact. But I was like, oh well.
You'd be in the shower thinking about it like, damn, I should have said this.
Right. So I'd be prepared next time. But it's just, that's why I didn't really like take it to heart, about the Harry Potter and stuff when I was growing up. Like that was just what we did.
Right.
Right.
I feel the same way. In DC, we called it roasting or joning or frying.
Right.
Same thing. Like, I'm gonna fry your ass. Like, boy, I'm gonna fry your ass if you don't. Like, and I can remember, like, I can very clearly remember, like, roast sessions over, like, people wearing Payless. I remember that was, like, a thing for a while. The why pay more when you could pay less fucking roast was going around.
I remember shacks.
Yes, in the shacks. Like, I have a vivid memory of this girl I used to know named Daria being like, why pay more when you could pay less? And everybody was like, oh. So, but yeah, but like, what? Number one, it's not mean-spirited.
No.
Maybe
like
it seems
like you can tell when it's been like, oh, yeah, some beef. Like you can tell it's mean-spirited, but even within the roast sessions, we wouldn't just randomly, circle around one person and just like fire them up.
Yeah,
but it would be amongst each like friends. Yeah, But even if it did go, like, we'll have limits, like, that's too far.
You went too far,
You went too far.
Yeah. I think that's an aspect of our culture that maybe is not really talked about or acknowledged.
Like rap battles.
Yeah.
That's like
that comes like, out of it.
You can respond like,
yeah.
Don't just take that L and don't take it personally, but okay, respond.
Like, are you gonna let him talk about your mama like that?
Right.
Damn. I wouldn't want to be your mama. Shit. Like, stuff like that. I think that in a way, that's the part of our culture that sort of gets unfair. Well, none of our culture should be compared to like white culture, in my opinion. But in terms of like white culture, I think that's the aspect of our culture that gets unfairly compared to bullying.
Right.
Because I don't think that roasting is bullying. And I see a lot of people when we start talking about people that have like, you know, and even black people, be it like black Americans, be it foreign blacks, that have animosity towards other black people. A lot of times this idea of like, well, I was picked on, I was teased, I was bullied. I see a lot of this type of language. Oh, I was bullied. And I've thought about it like, well, but like, were you really bullied? Like, was it really bullying? Is that a fair comparison in terms of what we do in our culture? Or are we comparing that to, again, like something that happens in white culture? Like, I remember watching Stranger Things. I don't know if you've seen Stranger Things.
I'm not a Stranger Things fan.
I hated it. I went off.
Like Game of Thrones.
I don't watch Game of Thrones.
I'm just like, I can't relate.
I like sci-fi and like speculative fiction and stuff. So people were like, "Oh, Serene, you should watch Stranger Things. You should watch Stranger Things. Watch it. Everybody's losing their fucking minds over Stranger Things." I'm like, "All right, let me watch it." I've never seen a single episode of Game of Thrones, but I was like, "All right, let me watch it." I watched the first season. I hated it. Yeah. I didn't watch the second season and not one episode. I did a whole review, like, and this was bad and that was bad. And one of the things that I remember thinking, and I mentioned it in my review about Stranger Things, was like, the way these kids are treating each other is wild. It's fucking out of control. Like, if this is what like bullying is, this is not what we do as far as what I have grown up with and what I have seen. Like, obviously I can't speak for anybody else, but you know, like viciously beating the shit out of each other. And there was a scene where a kid pulled a knife on another knife and was like, jump off the cliff, and the kids were like really cursing each other out and being like really malicious and spiteful and just awful little shits. And I saw a lot of people saying like, well, this is how kids are, this is how kids act. And I was like, maybe that's white culture, but I have never seen that type of thing. And I definitely think that a lot of what we do in terms of like roasting or cutting ass, like cut ass culture, is getting conflated and mixed in with this like really vicious, intense bullying. And I have just never seen that.
I've never seen it. Like, we definitely didn't do that. Not, growing up. I didn't see it.
Especially not as like children.
Yeah, that's just...
Maybe once you start getting into... I mean, and people have schoolyard fights and tussles. And then as you start getting older, people might start really beating the shit out of each other in high school.
On a daily basis.
But yeah. And they're not teasing. They just have beef. Like, they have an issue. And I was just like, I don't think this is what we do.
Are they in gangs or something?
No, on the show, no. It's just like the setup is supposed to be that one of the older kids, so however many kids it is, 4 or 5 of them, and then they have an issue with like an older kid. It's like an older kid and like his little 2 friends, like his little 2 henchmen. And this older kid, so you do get a little bit of backstory that the older kid is like, he's being abused by his father. And so he's a bully. Yeah. But I think it's taken a lot further than just bullying. Right. And I get that it's supposed to be that his father abuses him, so he acts in a really vicious manner towards these younger kids, that he feels like he has power over them, he has authority over them because he's older. Right. But it's not just like name calling and push or shove. He really like viciously, and then there's like some other stuff that ends up happening in terms of like the evil like stuff over the town and stuff. But it's just like, what's up with this vicious behavior? I also said the same thing about like the movie It.
Oh yeah.
Of just like, this is like extremely vicious behavior. I don't feel like this is, I don't like to use the word normal, but like I really don't feel like this is like normal childhood behavior. Or if it is, yet again, that's not the way that we are raised. We're not raised to find that type of thing acceptable. We're not raised. People like to say that like, especially Black Americans and DACS are like disrespectful and we have no manners and this and that. And it's like, just because we might cut ass on you or curse or be vulgar doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have an idea of what respect is.
Like, okay, what is your definition of manners?
Yeah,
right?
That too.
So it's like,
what's your perspective?
Yeah.
I think about that a lot too. Like, what's your perspective? Because I've also seen people say things that maybe they're not cursing. Maybe they're not yelling, like their voice is not raised. Maybe they're not emphatically talking with their hands. Like maybe they're sitting there calm, cool, and collected. But then they might say something like, I hope you get AIDS and die. And then you just be like, oh.
That took a turn.
And then when you say to them, like, fuck you, bitch, or something, they be like, I didn't curse at you. I didn't raise my voice at you. I didn't get disrespectful. It's like, but you don't think so you think just because you're not raising your voice, you're not cursing, you're not behaving in this certain type of way, you're not being disrespectful, but you're still saying things that are completely out of pocket.
Weaponizing. Like,
yes.
Very harmful.
Yes.
So many people pass away from AIDS. Like you just,
and I use that because I've literally heard somebody say that.
Really?
I've literally heard somebody say that. And it's things that I see, and I even feel like social media now,
I think that's fighting word. I'm sorry, like
basically.
Yeah.
I feel like social media also, people will say things that, number one, they would never say to you in person. But number two, like, people do, they just, like, come up. I mean, sometimes the insults be creative. I'm not going to lie. I'd be like, wow, that was, like, you really took your time with that one. But again, it's just, like, if you say something back to them that involves, again, let's say vulgarity or profanity or just certain type of things that I guess is already considered inappropriate. And I do think, yet again, us being Black Americans, us being DACS, and whatever this perception of us already as disrespectful, as uncouth, this or that, people feel like they should be able to say whatever they want to you.
We just have to take it.
We just have to take it. And then when we respond, it's an issue. And I do think a lot of it does come from what you just said of like, well, what even is your perspective on what is appropriate versus what is inappropriate, on, again, what is our culture versus what is your culture, and people not having an understanding of the way that we talk, the words that we use. Because like I said, like, I'm real vulgar. I say fuck a lot. And I don't mean in no type of way. I just be like, fuck, like, I forgot to fucking turn off the coffee maker or this or that. But it's people that be like, oh my God, that profanity, I find it to be so offensive. And I just be like, well, that's just how I talk. Like, that's just the way that that's really the way that I was raised. Like, my mother curses a lot. My grandmother curses a lot. Like, that's just the way that I was raised. And I even think, especially when you start getting into the East Coast, I think regional differences, like a lot of the East Coast culture is a bit more abrasive. But we not trying to be.
No, like, it's, y'all are very blunt. Very blunt. And it's like, oh, okay. I come across some people from the East Coast North. And I'm like, where are you from? Jersey. There it is.
Oh my gosh.
Like, there it is.
People from Jersey are a special breed though. Like, shout out to Jersey. Shout out to Jersey. Because people from Jersey are a very special breed. I actually have a really good friend from Jersey though that has also said to me, and I like never forgot this, I do still think about it. I was just saying it even the other day. My friend was like, you know, sometimes you have to be ignorant, and sometimes you have to be loud. People from New Jersey love being loud. Like, they just love it. But like, sometimes you have to be ignorant. Sometimes you have to be loud. Sometimes you have to make your presence known in a space in a certain type of way, especially if you're Black and especially if you're a Black American.
Yeah.
Because otherwise people feel like they really like genuinely have the right to like run roughshod all over you. And I thought about that, and it really, like, I agreed with that, and I feel that way even now. Like, I was just saying, I was like, sometimes I like being like Black and belligerent in a space. Like, yeah, I'm here, I'm Black, like I'm a Black American, I'm taking up space. Mm-hmm. You cannot tell me not to take up space.
Right. And I get that a lot because people think I'm younger than what I am, then I'm short. Mm-hmm. I'm a woman. Mm-hmm. So they're like, I'd be like, wait a minute. So I have to, no, you can talk to me in a different tone or a different type of way. You know, but sometimes you just gotta come at them real strong. Mm-hmm. I hate it. Like, I hate that I even have to get to that point, but you left me no choice. So
see, you're so nice and sweet.
Like,
I don't hate getting to that point. I'd be like, let's go.
If I have to, then it just is what it is.
Mm-hmm. I'd be on go time from jump.
Take it. No.
Do you feel like a part of the Southern culture or the culture here? I guess you can only speak for yourself and speak for here. Is like sweetness?
Well,
or is that just your personality?
It could be a mix, right? Because Southern Belle, Southern woman, this and that. But, you know, like, and plus a lot of my stuff can be very passive aggressive. Mm-hmm. You know, like, if you've heard of anyone say, bless your heart, yeah, she probably cursing you out still. Or, oh, your child is so precious. That can be a variety of meanings. Like, your child is ugly.
I was just going to say, so that means my child's ugly.
Or your child may actually just be precious. Mm-hmm. Like, it just depends on who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we live sweet and spicy. If that makes sense. Yeah.
That's why you want to try mambo sauce.
Is that what it is?
I mean, it's not really spicy.
So as long as KFC does not get their hands on it.
Oh, no.
I'll be fine because they did the Nashville hot chicken.
Really? They have Nashville hot chicken at KFC now? I didn't know that.
Ever go to, well, maybe not where you're from, but they have it, like, especially now here. Mm-hmm. If you ever go to Nashville, you have to go to Prince's.
They
are the original. They only take cash.
Uh-huh. Well, I don't need chicken, but...
Oh, that's right. But if you had hot chicken already...
You don't eat chicken either.
Oh, my God.
They don't serve fish?
No.
I mean, I could try it. I could eat it. Just to say I've had Nashville hot chicken.
Probably Hattie B's. They may serve fish. But Prince's, like, from what I know, they're the first ones. Mm-hmm.
I don't really know much about Nashville hot chicken. It's like a thing. I know it's like a thing.
It's been a thing for them for so long. Mm-hmm. So when KFC commercialized on it, it tastes nothing like it. Like, not even close. Like, they cannot serve that to the public because that's how hot it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's hot.
Why is it so hot?
I think it's like, it's lard, and then it's like so many like cayenne and some other spices. But it tastes so good. Like,
even though your mouth is on fire.
Yes, even though my mouth is on fire, like, you gotta eat it with the bread that they give you.
Okay. Well, I feel like it's my first time in Tennessee.
With fish.
Okay.
I bet that's good.
Right. Why not fish? Right, like, why not fish or shrimp? Why chicken?
You know, love chicken down here.
I know. I too love chicken.
We love chicken down here.
I had to stop eating it because I was losing my taste for it. Mm-hmm. Like, overall, I was losing my taste for it, and I never loved the flesh of the chicken. Like, I never enjoyed really
like the skin.
Yeah, like the skin. Even when I used to eat chicken, I would like,
and especially
pull it
if they wouldn't take all the feathers off. Ain't nothing like to turn your appetite off.
I have never.
Oh my gosh! Like, it would be little pieces of feather. Like I had a wing the other night. Just it'd be this. Like, I'm like, did y'all not see that before y'all bread it up and then put the like?
That's Memphis culture.
I hate it. Like, I hate it. I hate it. Turn me off so fast. Like, I don't want this. Take it back.
Before you said it, I've never in my life.
Are you serious?
I have never in my life witnessed
I don't know where
feathers
chicken from.
still attached.
But it's like little short things of feathers. Like, it'd be on like one end of the chicken.
Okay, now
y'all fried the chicken like this and then put the sauce on it.
I guess they figured it was just a little seasoning. Who don't want the little feather?
I don't want it.
You don't want it.
I don't eat the gristle. Like, I'm a special kind because I don't eat the gristle.
I don't like gristle.
People like blast me. Give me your bones. You can have it.
My mother and my aunt, and a couple of my cousins. My cousin likes to eat the whole fucking wing down to the bone and then crack the bone and fucking suck out the marrow. But she was raised in North Carolina, so maybe that's where she learned how to do that. The first time I ever saw her doing that, I was like, the fuck are you doing?
That is some weird shit. Like, I'm like, I tell people I'm not that type of sucker. I'm so sorry. Like, I hate tea.
You hate tea? No, I love tea. I could drink tea all day.
I hate it. My grandma.
Well, how do you hate tea?
My grandmother, she served me some fresh brewed tea, unsweet.
Oh, so it's bitter.
I was like 5. Mm-hmm. And so ever since then, Mom was like, "You've always hated tea." And even though I try to taste it, I'm like, "Get away from me." Like, I know I'm a special type of Southern. Like, I hate tea. I don't care if it's sweet or unsweet. Wow. I can't deal with it. I hate it.
You don't like tea. You don't like the feathers on your chicken. Ugh. I don't know. I was going to say, tell me about Memphis culture.
We love tea.
Because I'm curious about...
Like, we love it.
Mm-hmm.
We love tea. Mm-hmm. Very big on barbecue pork.
I don't eat pork, so... Did you eat pork?
Sparingly. I grew up in a meat eating house. Like, it was, you gonna have some meat in all your dishes on that plate. Like spaghetti, fried chicken and spaghetti.
Fried chicken and spaghetti?
That's the best.
No, I know fish and spaghetti.
Fried catfish and spaghetti.
I know fried chicken. I know fried catfish and spaghetti.
That is a meal. Spaghetti with the ground beef. That is all.
So you mix your chicken and your beef together, because if you're having fried chicken with spaghetti with ground beef, that's interesting.
Yeah, like if Thanksgiving coming up, there's gonna be guaranteed to be at least turkey or chicken in the dressing. You also have bacon or what type of hog maw or something in the greens or the green beans. I don't know. I don't eat it. Like, I figured I'm a special type of Southern because I don't eat the hog maw, I don't eat the pig feet, gizzards. No.
What exactly are gizzards?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Cool. It looks weird. Turkey necks looks weird. Mm-hmm. Don't eat it.
I've never been like a super big meat eater, and I quit eating pork. I don't even remember when, elementary school maybe. Oh, yeah. And then I quit eating red meat in like middle school, and then last year I went like just pescatarian. All I eat is seafood. But like my grandmother and like my family on both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side, are both from North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so my grandmother used to like cook a lot of meat, but I just never really liked it like that. Like, yeah, so I never tried a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And even still on my mother's side, my family's been in DC for so long. In 2020, it'll literally be 100 years.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That we kind of like, on my mom's side, are more like urban. That's what they call us, right? Like urban. But on my dad's side, they left North Carolina like more recently. Like my grandmother and my aunt that turned Christian, they were like born and raised in North Carolina, and then they like moved to the DC area like later. Mm-hmm. So they cook a lot more stuff, especially like my aunt Joyce, when she was like younger, she was like very much everybody got an Aunt Joyce. Especially when my Aunt Joyce was younger, she was just like very much like, and the monkey bread and the fried catfish and the boiled cabbage. I was just saying, I was like fried catfish and boiled cabbage
you,
makes me think of childhood.
Fried catfish with the tail still on?
Yes, I like to have it with the tail still on. Yeah, it's good luck. They say it's good luck.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah. Well, they say it's good luck to eat the whole fish, and they say it's good luck to eat the fish with the tail on and the bones.
Oh, really?
That's what my aunt used to say.
That's
she might have
so
made that up. I don't know, but they say something about the bones is like lucky.
Yeah.
So anytime I can even order like a whole fish or a bone-in fish in a restaurant, which a lot of restaurants you can't order it, like they remove it. But anytime I could order like a bone-in fish in a restaurant, I like to order it. And like we were at a restaurant that had fried catfish and cabbage, and it had like boiled cabbage on the menu. I wanted to order it, but the cabbage had meat in it and had pork in it. So I couldn't get it, but that's stuff that does remind me of like my childhood, because my grandmother and my aunt used to cook it all the time. But it is funny to witness sort of the differences based on my mom's side versus my dad's side. The one that's like more immediately, I guess you could say, like Southern, which is my father's side, versus, like I said, my cousin was like basically raised in North Carolina, and she like cracks open the bones and like sucks the marrow out and stuff, which I had never really seen before. And then my mom's side, which has been in like DC for so long, there was just a bunch of like uptown DC niggas. we don't in that regard, like my mom doesn't cook.
Oh yeah.
My mom doesn't cook, and she cooks a little bit now, but
Sunday dinners and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, my mom never cooked. So like I grew up eating like spaghetti and soup out of a can and McDonald's and a whole lot of like junk food and candy and corner store food and soda and water. Like I said, very urban. I say all the time, like, yeah, I'm one of those fucking inner city fucking gutter rats that people always talk so bad about. Which is what makes it even more funnier when people be like, oh, you're so proper, you think you talk proper, you think you white and this and that. I'd be like, what? For real? Like, maybe not. But then like on my dad's side of the family, and I spent like equal amounts of time with like both sides of the family. On my dad's side of the family, more like my aunt and my grandmother, they did do like Sunday dinners with like the fried chicken and the fried fish and the cabbage and mac and cheese and black eyed peas,
like every
and
Sunday after church.
Yeah. And they used to make me go to church because we were Christian. My grandmother and my father were Christian, so they used to make me go to church on Sundays. But I mean, it's not a bad memory. I don't have like bad memories. I could remember like going to church. Shout out to 12th Street Christian Church, DC. I can remember like going to church and my grandmother like preaching at church because she was like the minister, and me, I was like,
that is interesting because a lot of churches, they don't want
women. I wish Jocelyn could be here.
Like that's really interesting.
Yes, my grandmother is a woman minister. And I talked about that with Jocelyn. By the time this episode probably goes up, that episode with Jocelyn will probably already be up. But even in that episode, I talked with Jocelyn about how my grandmother, because we talked about a lot of like how churches have ceased to be service-based organizations, the way that previously, a church sort of existed to be a cornerstone of a neighborhood and to provide services for the Black residents, and how now a lot of it is just like a endless money pit.
Yeah.
And I talked about how my grandmother has had a lot of just resistance in being a woman minister and being allowed to have a church and being allowed to preach from the pulpit, and that a lot of things have just been a fight.
Yeah. Which
is something that Jocelyn said also, that it's even harder to get, because she's, like young, like our age, to get youth into the church because everything is a fight. It's a fight if you don't want women in there. Like, it's a fight if you don't, if you don't want homosexuals in there. It's a fight if you don't want to deal with the internet in 2018. It's a fight, And so we were talking about how can some things end up, changing a little bit more in the future. But and I can remember as a child, my grandmother was a minister and she did have a church. And I can remember her going to church, and she was preaching, and I can even remember my grandmother, like, before church, like Friday or Saturday, like writing, like handwriting out her sermons, and then she used to like practice them. She used to like read them over and like practice them and like say them out loud. I used to like watch her like practice. It used to be like amazing to like watch. And then she would like preach on Sunday, and then after church we would like go downstairs. Sometimes even before church we would like get there early because they would have like youth ministry like early. So like, and youth ministry was also downstairs. So like do youth ministry and then like do service and then go downstairs and like eat. There would be food, or if they didn't have food at church, like go eat at home. My stepmother used to cook. There's water here too. Oh, no problem.
Save my phone.
Oh, is it your phone?
I think so.
No problem. How long has it been?
Hello.
54 minutes.
Oh, 54 minutes already.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Sorry.
We chilling.
Trying to see if the Where's car is working.
We chilling.
Make sure my needs to get home.
That's so cute.
Young love. Young black love.
How sweet. Young black love. That's good. So are you're fine? You're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
he said he's gonna call me back, so.
Okay. Yeah. Not a problem. We've already done like 54 minutes too, so if you have to go, totally fine. Okay. No problem. I was just gonna say, and my stepmother did cook.
Oh,
so
yeah?
like even if we didn't eat at church, like we might go eat like at my dad's house. My stepfather might cook, or my grandmother might cook, or go to my aunt's house. And the whole thing of like my aunt would cook and like my uncle would watch football and like the kids would play and like a whole
Cowboys fans.
Oh no, we're from Washington D.C.
Look, let me tell you something. No.
Blasphemy.
I'm not a football person.
Okay.
When I tell you,
I'll let you slide.
I understand there's so many Cowboys fans in this city.
Really? I mean, Texas, so maybe it's closer.
But we have a whole team here.
What is the team here?
Tennessee Titans.
Oh, Tennessee Titans.
And they're based in
That makes sense.
But I mean, even like I'm not into football. I've never been into it. Not really my thing. Like my whole family, like I'm like,
I'm not into football either. But I'm just from DC. Even our name is horrible and atrocious and incredibly racist.
Right.
But it's just like, no, I'm not a Cowboys fan.
Okay. I'm trying to understand, like...
And that's America's rivalry right there. Cowboys and Indians.
A lot of...
can't say Indians, but...
A lot of people are big Cowboys. I don't...
Fuck the Cowboys.
I don't understand it. I was like... Because I wanted to know. Like, you have Cowboys fans. I just have to. And I'm like, is that something that's like across the country? Like, I just don't understand it.
No.
I don't.
When I went on my cruise, I went on my cruise in August, and it was so funny because it was like, it left out from Orlando, so I had to like fly to Orlando and like leave out from there. And then when I was coming back, I was in the airport in Orlando, and they have like a tram that you take in the airport to get out or whatever. And I'm like standing there waiting. I see this like older black couple, and they have on these like Redskins like hats and these like Redskins like wristbands and stuff. And I'm like looking. I'm like, I walk over to them, and I'm like, "Hail to the Redskins!" And they're like, "Hail to the Redskins!" And they're like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "I'm from DC." And they're like, "Oh, we're from Virginia." Like, so no Cowboys over here. But yeah, just like the whole experience of Sundays and what we did, like it was a great fond memory. Even though I'm not super religious, I'm not into organized religion, and as soon as I got old enough to like stop being like made to go to church, I stopped going. But it's definitely, like I said, even within my own family in terms of the differences in culture between my mom's side and my dad's side, because like my mom's side was like not at all religious. There was like no talk about really like church or God or religion or the devil or having to go to church. church, or like I said, like my mom didn't cook. My grandfather was from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And had a house in Pittsburgh, and his family's like in Pittsburgh. So a little bit more, that's Pennsylvania, so a little bit more like, not really Midwestern, but
right.
And it's still sort of like, again, like urban, with like the factories and just like a different. I can say as an adult, you don't think about really this type of thing when you're younger, when you're a child, but I can say as an adult that there was sort of like a difference in like culture and a difference in even sort of upbringing when I was with my father's side of the family versus when I was with my mom's side of the family. Like, even my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother, like I said, she cursed. My paternal grandmother, I don't think I've ever
heard. That is so crazy, because my paternal grandmother, I've never heard her say.
I don't think I've ever heard her say a bad word. Yeah, I don't think I've ever.
Oh. And I've never met my maternal granny, but I'm pretty sure she probably did. Just the memories and stories that have been told, over about her my whole life. She was no one to play with.
She was like a badass.
And her daughters, my mom and her aunts. I'm like, okay, there must be the Thelma coming out, because y'all crazy.
The way they
say this crazy, but I'm like, y'all are some
freely.
Fire. Yeah. So that's just, I don't know.
It's so a difference. Crazy. Yeah, it's really a difference. Like, my paternal grandmother never curses. Now, she will, like, she is, like I said, she's from North Carolina. She will read you, like, but she will not curse you out.
Right.
But my maternal grandmother, who, like, she's still alive, she's in DC, she will curse you the fuck out like you have never been. Like, she will singe the hair on your nostrils with the curse words. It'll be curse words that you have never even heard. It'll be like some curse words from like 1945. You'd be like, what did you even just say to me? Like, damn, you just like melted the skin off my face. You really cursed me the fuck out. And she's like, real mean. But I love her. Like, I love her so much. Like, I'm very mean. And I do, like, I love them both in different ways. And I definitely see, and my grandfather, who was from Pittsburgh, was also, like, a rattlesnake. My mom said used to say he was, like, mean as a rattlesnake. Like, he would go the fuck off on you. But he loved us, you know? Yeah. But it was just, again, sort of that more abrasive, like, just a difference in that aspect sort of Black American culture versus my father's side of the family, which, again, was not maybe so far removed from the South and was, like, a little bit more, like, still connected to, like, the Southern gentility. Like, I remember my grandmother she wouldn't let us put our elbows on the table. She's like, that's rude. Like, elbows on the table is rude. She wouldn't let us sing at the table. She said singing at the table is rude. Whistling at the table is rude. All these things. Like, you can't do nothing at the table except sit there and eat your food. Like,
well, I wouldn't let people put their elbows on the table, but just because you can, like, bruise. Yeah, your elbows. Yeah, and you can get discoloration.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right here too. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I tell people don't do it, but I think it's just because that it's like stuck. It's like embedded in my brain. And it's funny the things you remember, because I've caught myself being with people at the table. Like, sometimes I babysit even, so sometimes I'd be at the table with kids, and the kids have their elbow on the table and they talking and they singing la 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 whistling. I'd be like, singing at the table is rude. And take your elbows off the table and stop singing and whistling, eat your food. And then I just be like, did my grandmother just take control of my body and, like, speak through me? And, like, for us, if we kept doing it, she would make us get up and run around the table backwards.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if that's like a tradition, a culture norm, or what. If we kept doing it, if we got caught with our elbows on the table more than 3 times, we would have to get up and run around the table 3 times backwards. Oh. And then if we kept doing it, we did it again, we would have to get up and leave and run around the house 3 times backwards. So we learned real quick, like,
do it.
No elbows on the table. Mm-hmm. So, but it's just interesting. And, you know, I think, like, the South, 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 like, the I will also say that I know I've been like really lucky enough to like get some traveling under my belt. Even as a child, I spent a summer in Indianapolis in Indiana with family. I spent a summer in Cleveland, Ohio with families. Spent summers in very cold winters in Pittsburgh. I spent summers in Pennsylvania, in Philly, in DC, obviously, and in North Carolina, a lot of time in North Carolina. And it is interesting. It's like when I'm with my grandfather in Pittsburgh, you know, we get up early and we go to the market and we buy peasant bread from like the Amish people that sell it. And when I'm in Philly and the ice cream truck comes and we like chase the ice cream truck like barefoot with our money to like get the ice cream. But then like when I'm in North Carolina,
I don't know, do they still do ice cream trucks?
Do they?
I haven't seen one.
I don't know. Maybe they don't. You know, everything now is considered dangerous.
And we hear that jingle, whatever music playing from down the street. Let's get some ice cream and we'll ice cream.
Everything now is considered dangerous. Like, I can remember being in North Carolina with my cousins, just like me and my cousins, like just us, no adult supervision, like riding fucking 4-wheelers and like ATVs and shit, and like no supervision.
And we did the bikes, like we can afford
the ATVs. My aunt had one. Well, she had a bunch. And when you were a kid, you don't know. I don't know how she got money. I don't know. I know her husband died, so maybe her husband
that could probably be it.
Had like left her some money. I think he maybe had a life insurance policy or something like that. I didn't know. And my grandmother always worked, and my paternal grandmother, and she still works. Like she still works even now.
Oh wow!
So when I used to like go to different places, like 9 times out of 10, like my grandmother would pay for it. So that's why I say, like, I know I've been like very lucky to like see different places and to like travel, because not everybody had the opportunity. And I think that also sort of like shaped me in a lot of ways, in the sense of like sometimes when I see the things that people say about us, I just be like, that's not true.
Right.
Or when they say things about our culture, or when they say things about, well, Black Americans do this or act like this, and I say like, well, the niggas in Cleveland are not the same as the niggas in Indiana, that are not the same as the niggas in North Carolina, that are not the same as the niggas in DC, that are not the same as the niggas in Philly, that are not the same as the niggas in Pittsburgh, even though they share the same state. Like, we are different, and people just don't know. They don't know us, and they don't know nothing about us, and they just have all these assumptions about us, which is just like whack and like really wild.
It's mind-boggling, especially
mind-boggling is a good word.
Coming over to a whole new country, and you've already had these preconceived notions about a group of people on our homeland. Yeah. That's disrespectful.
It is.
Like, you know, growing up, you start to like, oh, wow, I was wrong about what I thought about that. But to be like a full adult, and then especially if you have a particular platform, you're still spewing that, that's really dangerous.
I agree.
It is.
I agree.
It is.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
That's why I sort of think that like talks like this are super cool and important, in terms of, like I've been saying, just us like speaking for ourselves and getting our own narrative kind of out there and in different places.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation that has been going on for years now. We just haven't been talking about it on the internet, but you know, we'll talk about it at the table. So like, especially at Sunday dinners, all the uncles be in the room and all the aunties and whatnot, all the women. Talk about everything, everything. Like, you know, we're observing, we're watching. Yeah.
What do you think can be done about it? I know that's like a loaded question.
I don't know. Like, you have to try to have, you have to have the conversation. You have to want to have the conversation, and you know, actually try to like get that shit in the bud. Like, you know, like I really, all we're asking for is like just respect us, respect our culture. I don't think that's anything like demanding, but you just can't come at people like that and then expect from us to help you while you're disrespecting us. Like, sorry, but nah, our grandma and them, they already endured that, and we saw how it turned out. You know, so we just learning from our elders, you know, from what what they have endured. We're witnessing that, and we're like, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was how I felt when we were at the Civil Rights Museum yesterday. I sort of had a thought, which we talked about, where I was like, even a lot of our elders had ideas about certain things, and a lot of the ideas never came to fruition, or maybe ended up playing out in a different type of way. And now as a younger generation, we are maybe navigating a different type of way, like how you said, we've seen what our elders have gone through.
When people look back at the civil rights movement and all that just happened.
Right. It really did.
At least I have family members still alive. They're maybe in their 60s.
Mm-hmm. It was recent.
Not that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
I know down here, I spoke to someone that's 49. He was telling me how they didn't officially integrate schools until he was probably 10.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's something that my mother has never spoken about. I think we really need to speak with our parents and our elders before they pass, and we have to get their history and perspective.
Mm-hmm.
For some of it, I know it's hard to talk about. That's why I realized my mom has really never really talked about that. Maybe it's hard to talk about, or maybe it's hard for my grandma to talk about certain things.
Yeah.
That happened to them growing up,
Mm-hmm.
But, if that's something if that's something that we do need to do,
mm-hmm.
we have to document it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate, that's one of my biggest regrets. When my last two grandparents passed, I didn't get their perspective
mm-hmm.
about how was it growing up. Because my paternal grandmother, she's the only grandmother I've known. I wish I had a picture, but it's crazy because she's this real fair, light-skinned woman. And her husband, my grandfather, he's this real dark-skinned man.
Mm-hmm. And
just seeing it, I just wonder, Granny, how did you navigate living in America, being a light-skinned Black woman like that?
Mm-hmm.
I just, I want to know,
mm-hmm.
And I just want to ask my grandfathers, how was it? Because both of my grandfathers were dark-skinned Black men.
Mm-hmm.
And they, went to war, they did all this and that. How was life,
mm-hmm. I agree. And I feel the lack of talking about it and documenting it is a part of what allows people to act like it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. It was so long ago.
No, maybe 30, maybe a good 30.
Right. And why is that the go-to number? People be like, it was over 100 years ago. I'd be like, no, it wasn't. What are you talking about?
And, that's people that was born in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
The schools weren't integrated,
Mm-hmm.
So it's we have our own different history down here.
Mm-hmm.
I was rebellious in the bad ways, but they could have kept segregation just funded.
Mm-hmm.
Their schools way better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Interesting.
My grandmother was also very, very, very light-skinned, fair, white passing,
mm-hmm.
even almost. And my grandfather was also extremely, extremely dark-skinned. And something that I did actually end up talking to my grandmother about, and I also knew my great-grandmother. She died when I was 12.
Yeah.
I was old enough. I remember her very well. Was that a part of what a lot of people, men and women, that were really, let me not say people, what a lot of Black Americans, men and women that were extremely light-skinned and fair-skinned were even doing was marrying darker-skinned spouses because they actually wanted their kids to be darker,
mm-hmm.
even because they felt shame, they felt ashamed of being so fair-skinned. Because especially at that time, the fairness of the skin meant that you had whiteness in you, that especially considering that. So my great grandmother, her mother was a slave. And my great-grandmother was also like white passing. So for all we know, like my great-grandmother's mother might have been a slave and father might have been, you know, a slave owner.
Right.
And so my great-grandmother, who I knew, who died when I was like 12 years old, I knew this woman. I could remember her house, everything. She was like extremely fair white passing. And then my grandmother is like extremely fair white passing. My Aunt Joyce is like extremely fair white passing. But my grandmother married like a very dark-skinned man, because it's almost like, you know, there's this stigma of like, we have this white blood in us and that we want the kids to be like darker. And so it's like very interesting. We've been talking about this a lot, this concept that like, you know, Black Americans we're all mixed. We're mixed. We're not really Black. We're not fully Black. And that's why I also find a lot of conversations around Blackness here in the United States to be really interesting, because I do think there's this undercurrent. I think a part of the disrespect, what you were saying about respect, the lack of respect, I feel like the sort of a undercurrent of that lack of respect is even like that, like foreign Blacks are more, they don't consider us Black. They feel like they're more Black, like they're Blacker than us.
It's like, that sucks, because like, you know, my grandmother, she probably like I'm pretty sure down her bloodline, she was probably a product of rape. Like, that's traumatizing. And I could probably see why it was like, yeah, let me find a dark-skinned Black man. I want to like erase it from my house. Yeah. So, and
it's interesting too. I find it so interesting that nobody talks about that when we're having these conversations about like colorism also. That aspect.
Oh my God. I remember you tried to talk about colorism.
I had to stop. I was like, I can't talk about colorism with y'all.
It was crazy. It was like, it was too much. I was just like even now, like, on my mother's side of the family, everyone is dark skinned. Me and probably maybe 3 other cousins or aunts, like, my skin tone and lighter. So some people would consider me light skinned. Probably because I'm probably lighter than the Black folks I used to see. But I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, this.
I've had people say that to
light
me.
Skin, that I'm a little bit lighter, but it's weird. It's especially weird. Down here, like, you can tell the folks who's just trying to talk to people because of their skin tone or whatnot, what they think is beautiful. It's interesting. Like, some people consider me light skin. I'll be like, what? Nah. I'm like in between brown, but I'm like brown, but I'm like, no. And I feel like, because I've had people say that to me as well. I've had people say like that I can't talk about colorism because like I'm not dark enough. I'm not dark skinned. I'm brown skinned. They'd be like, oh, somebody like say like Lupita is dark skinned. And we've even been talking about this idea of when you need a dark skinned Black person, they go with like a foreign Black because they're like Black, like very Black, like as if we are not darker. It's so me. Yeah, like you get my uncle, like my younger brother. He draws after our grandfather.
And I also even find it's a little bit offensive to, if we're talking about colorism and you say, well, like, they say to you, like, well, you light skin. Or they say to me, like, well, you can't talk about colorism because, like, you are brown, you're not dark enough or whatever, darker. And then I say, well, but I am this complexion because my very fair-skinned grandmother, who knew that we were a product of rape in a way, married my extremely dark-skinned grandfather so I could have this complexion. And that's a direct result of American racism and American chattel slavery and what happened here. You're not about to tell me that what I can't talk about here in America because of, especially not because of my complexion, when my complexion is a direct result of what happened here. Which is why I'm starting to even feel weird about, you know, having the colorism. I feel very weird at this point about having the colorism conversation and conversations about American racism with non-Americans. Any really non-Americans, but like not, especially like not, you know, non-American Blacks, because people, they just don't have no understanding or concept or grasp of what happens, of what the history is, of why we look the way that we look, of how race operates here.
Yeah, like, it's like, when you do speak about race, you speak about it from an American standpoint because, ta-da, you're American. So, you know, you're speaking about it from this aspect. And I guess the biggest issue is that people try to conflate it with across the diaspora. You like, no, you're like, no, I'm not. Like, this is how we do it over here. Like, here. It's over here. Yeah. So I think that's what the big issue is.
And that's like confusing to me also because it's like, we're talking about it here.
Yeah.
We're not talking about it anywhere else. Like, we're talking about it here. We're talking about subsets of American racism here in America as a product, essentially, of American racism because I'm a product of American chattel slavery. Like, I'm talking about it, and people are just really getting, like you said, a lot of issues conflated. And I don't like, something else that I see a lot of that I don't really care for is like, well, in terms of colorism, for example, like, well, you know, we need dark skin representation, which we absolutely 100% do need more dark skin representation in global media, but especially like here in America in terms of like American media. But it's like, you cannot just say like, well, we're not gonna have no type of understanding or reconciling of the way that American colorism works, the why, the how, the who, what, when, and where. We just gonna be like, dark skin representation, let me just like grab somebody and just like throw them in there. Because like, for example, there's East Indians that might be darker than me and you, right?
Come across, yeah.
But that don't make them black. That don't make them black Americans. Like, and it's all this of just like, well, colorism is just about like, be light and dark, so we just gonna like throw the darkest person in. We don't care about nothing else. It's like, but y'all don't have no understanding of like where even these ideas about colorism here in the United States. I'm not trying to talk about Southeast Asia or Africa or the Caribbean, anywhere else, but like here in the United States and the way that the rules worked here, and then even the way that the rules worked post-American chattel slavery as we get into Jim Crow and segregation and brown paper bag tests and stuff like that. The way that that stuff worked here set the stage for the way that even the colorism is playing out now and stuff like that. So if you don't have no understanding of that history, you don't have no understanding of anything. Right. And you just talking. Right. And that's the shit that fucking annoys me. Like, stop that. Like, you don't even know what you're fucking talking about.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
I think I'm hungry. I think that's
you hungry?
I think so. I got some salmon at home. I think I'm gonna cook that.
She said salmon. So that must be a Memphis pronunciation.
Yes.
Salmon.
It has to be.
It has to be.
How do you say it?
Salmon.
Yeah, salmon. We're lazy with that word.
You said salmon. I was like,
we drag our words out.
Salmon? He was like, salmon? I was like,
salmon.
Salmon? It was like a whole back and forth for like a minute.
So,
but all right.
But yeah, color is like my youngest niece. She's 7 now, and she's experienced colorism already from a classmate of hers. And she just randomly told me. I'm like, really? So I had to speak with her, just let her know, like, you know, try my best to get her to understand at the age of 7. Like, you know, baby, yeah, they gonna view you like that, but they don't mean that's true. They're ignorant, and they're choosing to still be ignorant. And you also have to think about the adults in these kids' lives who were still passing their own. Like, she was told about one of her boy classmates that he prefers to play with the lighter brown skinned girls because they're nicer and their hair is nice and pretty and straight. And I was like, he said, what? Yeah. So she was like, so yeah, I try to be nice. I'm like, no, you be who you are. Don't change. You don't have to change for anyone. So, and it's one of the reasons why I stayed natural, because my youngest niece is natural. So I just want her to see, like, yeah, no, this is normal, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you also said that, because I think there's also a lot of confusion, and also not talking about how colorism also involves more than just skin tone.
Right.
It does also involve facial features. Do you have a broader nose?
Right.
Do you have bigger lips? Do you have straighter hair? Do you have a looser curl?
Even if you light skin, you can tell a person black.
Right. Right.
Features. You can tell.
Right. Like phenotype. That's like phenotype.
Tell, yeah.
That's like phenotype. And yeah, like again, even using like I said, I use Lupita as an example. Lupita is very dark skinned, but in my opinion, Lupita has a lot of European features. A lot of people use East Africans as an example, like Iman. There's even a stereotype that people used to call East Africans white people dipped in black or white people dipped in chocolate. You could like Google that. That was like a real thing because a lot of East Africans have like straighter noses, but that's just because East Africa, in terms of like the history, and again, now like I just happen to know this history. If I didn't know this history, I wouldn't know it. Just like how people don't know history here in America, yet they still feel qualified to have a fucking opinion. But like in East Africa, there was like a primary conquering of East Africa by Italy. So a lot of East Africans do have like a lot of Italian in them. And so you have a lot of East Africans that also they have more European features of a straighter nose, of thinner lips, a high like broad forehead. There's a lot of like features that would be considered more racially ambiguous features, even if they're darker skinned.
Wow.
So then you might have somebody like Lupita, who I'm just using as an example, who is darker skinned. Like, yes, obviously she's darker skinned, she's darker than you or me, but Lupita might have facial features that are not considered to be ugly or that are not considered to be as even maybe ethnic as yours or mine, because Lupita has a thinner nose. Lupita has, certain features that could be considered more beautiful in terms of fitting into a Eurocentric beauty standard. And that's also a lot of like the nuance that I see that's lost in this type of conversation when it comes to racial ambiguity, when it comes to a Eurocentric beauty standard, when it comes to colorism. And now you have colorism again that's intersecting with, say, again, like this foreign black privilege. So you might take, and I was just talking to a friend of mine that's a model. So she's gorgeous, right? Like she's a model, like a literal model. And she's light skinned. She's very fair, like high yellow even.
Would have been able to do the Plain with casting?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Wow.
She said that she has had people tell her straight up to her face, you will book more jobs if you told people that you were not American. So that she's like, even though you are light skinned, the features that you have, despite you being light skinned, and also the fact that you're American, sets you at a disadvantage. So you might have a foreign black girl that, even though maybe she's darker than my friend, she might have facial features that are more quote unquote symmetrical, or again, like a straighter nose, or like certain types of cheekbones, again, certain types of forehead, things that are aligned with the ethnocentric beauty standard. And in addition to that, they're foreign, so they have the foreign privilege, they have the exoticism factor. Right. All these things also factor into when we're talking about privilege, when we're talking about colorism, when we're talking about racial ambiguity. It's not just light skin, dark skin.
Right. It's not. Right.
Hair texture, looser curl patterns versus nappy. I know some people feel like nappy is offensive. I don't feel like nappy is an offensive word, but
I think when it comes from a person who's black.
Anything coming from a person that isn't black, I find offensive. They're not even allowed to talk to me. Everything they say is offensive. I just mean in terms of black people.
Like, on a person's time, like a white feel like that.
But I guess coarser is like the more appropriate. But like from a looser to a coarser, hair texture makes a difference, which we also see. Like a lot of people have said, like Tatiana Ali, who played Ashley Banks, who's Panamanian, right? She's Panamanian in real life. She has a lot of East Indian, so she has long, straight hair. So does that offset the fact that she's brown skinned? Does that make her more acceptable because she has long, straight hair? These are things that we have to also take into account when, again, we're talking about colorism, racism, racial ambiguity, privilege, all these things. And the nuance is just getting lost in the conversation in a way that I find disappointing, especially if this is going to be a conversation that we're going to have, and that we're going to have here in the United States, and that we're going to have as it relates to descendants of American chattel slavery and representation, and because it's our lives, you know, it was your little niece. Like, we're the product of what happened.